So I think I can get the hang of this. I'm on one screen today, so we'll see where we get to. But yeah, no, thank you very much to Sarah for taking the time to present. I think some of the work that they do is fascinating. So it's always nice to see how customers have achieved things. And really, what I want to do is expand on on use cases today. My presentation, as Nick mentioned, hopefully give you some inspiration. Really for how the technology can be applied in lots of different ways. So I just want to start with kind of roles within an organisation, and I guess this touches on the barriers kind of section that we had earlier. But there are lots of different roles within an organisation, and the way we like to talk about it is we've got roles on the left, and they're generally things that we're really good at as humans, you know, that verbal communication, the creativity, the compassion, planning, emotion, subjective thought, and things like that. And then we've got tasks on the right that generally were not so good, not so enjoyable. So logical processing, those repetitive tasks, those rekeying tasks that often require accuracy, consistency, unemotional decisions, really. And the things that need to be done all the time, there's quite often a backlog of them. And also, quite often it's just structured information. So taking information that's structured and putting it into one other place. So RPA, what is it about? Well, really, it's about freeing up time for the human workforce to do what we're really good at. So the communication, creativity, compassion, and those type of tasks, and really handing over some of the tasks that we don't enjoy so much, and the tasks that don't require human interaction over to that virtual RPA workforce. And then you've got the unstructured part in the middle there, and it's quite interesting, really, because unstructured data is sat in the middle. At the moment, robotic process automation itself can only deal with structured information. So we can apply rules and logic to that process for the robot to carry out. But when it comes to unstructured information, so it might be, for instance, an invoice template, you know, that isn't structured. Invoice templates come in lots of different ways, and, you know, there's no unique way of identifying a particular piece of information all the time in the same way. That's quite interesting at the minute, because at the moment humans have to process that, but that's really where we're getting into the depths of artificial intelligence and your cognitive services and things like that. And that's kind of what we refer to as intelligent automation. So taking unstructured information, processing it through a cognitive service to be structured information, and then the bots can pick it up and move that structured information as you wish around the council and the different systems. So I hope that gives a bit of an overview, really, in terms of where RPA sits. There are lots of different use cases for robotic process automation. Apologies. So I really want to start by setting the scene here with some different use cases, and then I'm going to talk about lots of different case studies, really, and jam-pack the rest of the presentation with case studies to inspire you. So first of all, we've got your typical process automation. So those are the mundane tasks within a particular system that we do over and over again. We've then got migration. So I'm going to talk about a couple of migration examples. Obviously, Sarah alluded to a particular migration that Swindon are embarking on, but that's the lift and shift of a large amount of data from one system to another. So maybe you're decommissioning a particular system, legacy system or something like that. We've then got synchronization, and I know we talked about kind of tell us once earlier on and things like that. I've got a tell us once example to show you, but really synchronization is about updating those disparate systems, you know, the information, keeping them up to date. So maybe a change of address comes in and that needs updated in lots of different systems. You've then got extraction, and we can see this in two ways. We can see it in a way of extracting a large amount of data as a data dump and pulling it out of the system for them maybe reporting or things like that. But you might also have lots of different systems where you do regular reporting that you've got to extract information from on a regular basis. And RPA is really useful for that. You've then got data integration. So that could be between your systems, system A to system B, but it could also be, you know, things like front-end technology as well. And I've put on there end-to-end or intelligent automation. And this one's quite an interesting piece, really, because we're starting to see RPA being used alongside other technologies like your apps and your e-forms and your cognitive services now. And that allows then that end-to-end transformation. So, you know, in the Swindon example where you've got the Jadu form and then the bot picks it up, we'd probably refer to that as an end-to-end transformation. And then you've also got the intelligent automation piece, potentially using a cognitive service. So I just want to start really, you've heard from Sarah around MunchieBot, but I want to start with Medway Council and their migration project that they did last year. And they have a Mickey Ironman bot that they refer to their bots as. So the story behind Medway, they were left with quite tight timescales. They were moving their revs and bends system from one legacy system to another. They'd approached the vendor to migrate around 6 million documents, but it was a really, really costly exercise. It was over £300,000 to do it through the vendor. Now, Medway had been working with NDL since 2011, so long-standing customers of ours. They've got lots of different forms integrations. And we started to look at the feasibility of doing the project with robots rather than a manual task or going out to the vendor. So this project, we kind of sat down with the Revs and Bends team, scoped the project end to end. It was quite tight timescales, but the chap on the picture there on the right hand side, Peter Brightwell, he's one of our consultants. He was pretty confident he could do it. So we set to work and we delivered the end-to-end project of moving 6 million documents from one system to the other in 7 weeks. Between 6 and 7 weeks, which was a great task. Substantial cost savings with in comparison to the vendor doing it. And it was the equivalent of 50,000 to 70,000 man hours. Very much like Swindon, Medway went on to win the NDL Community Digital Project of the Award of the Year with that one, with the substantial one. And from that, I think what's quite prevalent with NDL is the NDL community, and it's all about sharing and why reinvent the wheel and things like that. And since this project, we've gone on to deliver the same at Liverpool City Council and also at Portsmouth City Council, you know, using exactly the same code and taking it and lifting it, shifting it from one council to the other. So we're still in the middle of those, but the phase ones have been complete, and I think it shows the power of collaboration and sharing and things like that there. So the next one I wanted to go through is Conway County Council. Now this project was actually inspired by the Medway project. They already had the software, so they procured the software January 2021. They've had it just over a year, the software. And they used it in their education system for school admissions and things like that to automate those. But then they had a requirement to move from their legacy social care system, which was Paris, to a WICIS system, which is the national social care system. And for Conway, it was kind of an incalculable amount of data. And what I mean by that is when they started to look at the amount of data, because you've got lots of different types of documents in lots of different formats, and each individual record will have a different amount of documents and different document sizes against it. It was really difficult to grasp the amount of data that they needed to move. So they set to work, they wrote all the scripts themselves. They had a couple of days consultancy from our NDL team, but other than that, they set to work themselves and they moved all of the documents across. They realised that with the timescales, they needed to decommission the system March this year. So it was quite tight timescales to move everything across. So what we did is we scaled up to 40 bots. So the bots worked basically day and night, scaled all the way up. And they moved a total of 11 million, nearly 12 million documents across. Originally, they'd scoped, it was about 20 million. Obviously, it was nowhere near that figure. And it sounds like it's maybe a little bit negative from that perspective. But actually, if they were basing their facts and figures off the 20 million kind of 20 million area, you know, they'd have hired manual staff based on that number, whereas with using the bots, it was very easy. Once they'd completed the migration of the 12 million, they could basically then just free up the bots to do something else. So quite a nice one there. And ultimately, 2,000 working days saved there. They are actually doing a webinar showcase of their end-to-end projects on the 25th of May. 11 till 12. You can actually sign up to that. It's open for anyone to have a look at. So if you're interested, go to our website, go to our events section, or just let me know in the chat and I can send you a ticket to actually hear from Conway themselves. We've then got Norwich City Council with their Tell Us Once scheme. So Tell Us Once was set out by the government a number of years ago to automate and update the information of a deceased member of staff. They had 15 disparate systems involved at Norwich, and they had quite a siloed approach, so they had no APIs to any of the systems. They started with the Tell Us Once process. There was 50 plus notifications to check per department across these different systems. So they had quite a lot of kind of processes to automate within that and different systems to automate. So it was a very, very big first project. But because of that, they've then got all the bots already programmed to log in and out of the system, navigate through certain areas and things like that. So because of that, the rest of their development has been very, very simple from a Norwich's perspective, because they've already got a lot of the bots logging into the systems already. So that was quite a nice one for them to start with. Their approach really in terms of RPA at Norwich is to use it in anger. So where possible, they will use RPA if they don't have an API available. So I wanted to then talk about a slightly different kind of council, I guess, which is Stratford-on-Avon District Council. So these guys are quite a small council, if you've ever been to Stratford, lovely, lovely place. And they have iDocs, which handles their planning applications. Now, last year when I went to see them, they had a planning application, which was their HS2 equivalent going through the town. So there were lots and lots of comments on the planning system of people putting comments on it against this planning application. And when I went to see them, they were looking at 600 to 700 comments a day. Now, for a small council, for them to be able to deal with them comments manually, they wouldn't have been able to do it simply. There would just have been a backlog of comments. So they now use the bots to take the information from the e-form and update it into iDocs. So quite a large efficiency for such a small council. They also use it in lots of different areas of planning as well, with iDocs, and have done for a number of years. They're probably our longest standing customer, about 17 years. So they started with us in the days of terminal emulation and screen scraping, and now use what we call robotic process automation today. So next I wanted to talk about South Norfolk. So South Norfolk, their RPA journey came about with a drive for efficiencies to reduce paper and really the channel shift that they needed to work towards, which was involved in their strategy. Within the strategy, they had a service review, which looked at really three main areas, which one was connecting a plethora of back office systems and business applications that they've got from lots of different suppliers that they've had over the years. So they had a lack of integration. The second really was to divert people to self-service via reforms. That was a big thing for them. So previously, online requests had just simply triggered emails for then the services to look at. So they wanted to streamline a lot of those actions. And finally, they wanted to redirect all of their incoming inquiries and phone inquiries to a centralized customer service team that they adopted. And a key challenge with this really was expecting the customer services team to be upskilled in all the different back office systems. They didn't want the complexity of having to replace lots of different CRMs or deploying a particular CRM to work from. So their strategy has been to deploy lots of different e-forms for the customer services team to enter, and then the bots pick up and navigate the back office systems. So we started with a proof of concept with South Norfolk. which was around environmental services and garden waste collection orders, automating that. So it took the information from e-forms and navigated into the back office system, which was Civica APP, or is Civica APP. And since then, they've now got 30 different integrations running 24/7 across planning, environmental services, e-forms, across the organisation, housing, finance, and I guess they've done lots of kind of one-off bulk processes as well around data cleansing and things like that. They've got lots of kind of smaller processes at South Norfolk, but lots of them. So I suppose it's that kind of marginal gains approach, but it's estimated at over £400,000 cost savings and improved job satisfaction for those people not having to get kind of trained up on lots of different systems and it being quite complex. Also reducing the emailing around the organisation. So that's quite a nice one. So I've put this one in. This is Wigan Council, and I wanted to give you an example of attended automation. Really, it's something that probably about 12 to 18 months ago, we changed out the way we license at NDL to promote attended automation because we saw a lot more of it across organisations, and the requirements for it have increased massively. So Wigan started with a proof of concept here, and they have a web-based referral health and social care system. So they might take calls from Gamblers Anonymous or Alcohol's Anonymous or something like that to refer to them particular social care services. So information is basically rekeyed into a number of different systems. So an employee would take a referral in and they'd call up to book an appointment and to assess the person and what kind of care that they require. They'd then book that appointment into the booking system, but they'd also then double rekey that into the social care system, which is Mosaic. So quite time consuming from that call centre perspective. So we re-engineered the process for the person to book in the appointment in the booking system when they're taking the call, but actually then the robot picks up that process, navigates the Mosaic social care system and books that appointment in and makes the note in there as well. So time spent rekeying has been significantly reduced from that perspective. From doing that proof of concept, they've moved on to do school admissions as well with Capital One, which was quite an interesting one. And they've also used our eForm platform as well to do forms for booking COVID tests, which has been quite a nice project to be involved in as well. And then I wanted to talk about Moray Council because this gives you an idea of that end-to-end integration and that end-to-end automation. So Moray have a housing repairs system, so they do housing repairs that most people will be familiar with. And what used to happen is their call centre would take a call and they would basically then rekey the information into their CRM, their housing system and their stock system. I think they also had a scheduler as well, which was that they had to rekey it into. Then what would happen is the person would go into the office in the morning, pick up a paper sheet for what repairs the housing maintenance guys have to do. They'd then drive out to the jobs, they'd do the jobs, and then drive back to say, yeah, I've completed it. So they re-engineered the whole process at Moray. They went with a digital front end, which was actually a native mobile app. So they have our MX platform for developing native mobile apps. So what happens now is somebody calls into the centre, the person rekeys it once into the CRM, and then the information is taken up by the bots to register it in the housing system, the stock system, and the scheduling system. It's then automatically triggers a visit on the housing repair person's mobile phone. They drive out, do their visits for the day. Everything's audited, they put the information on there, and then that uploads on an evening back to the SQL database, and then the bots pick it up to say, yeah, job completed. So that's actually been able to reallocate 7 staff members to different tasks as well, rather than just taking information for housing repairs and then moving on to the next housing repair. Quite often as well, they would have maybe the wrong tradesman go out to the job, they wouldn't have the right stock in place and things like that when it's a manual process, whereas all of those checks are done by the bots now before scheduling that job for the housing repairs and the maintenance guys. So quite a successful project there. So I just want to kind of finish off by talking about NDL's digital transformation suite. So we're quite keen at NDL in terms of it's great automating that process, but actually if it's not in a digital format in the first place, you know, it's very difficult to do that. You need that data. So we have two streams to the NDL toolbox. The first is the digital stream, which is around front-end technology. So that's FX and MX. So FX is an eForms platform. MX is a mobile application development platform. So both used to create kind of that front-end data collection there. You've then got the automation platform. So it's great digitalizing data, but there's no point in then rekeying it back into the system. So, you know, we've got that SX platform there to automate, to update those different back office systems. All products kind of work in their own. You don't have to procure all the products or anything like that. You know, they come in their own entity, so to speak. And just to give you, I guess, a bit of a background for those who don't know us at NDL, we have a digital transformation suite, so lots of different tools, and it's the right tool for the right job, I guess. All of the tools are actually developed and supported by NDL, so we've been around in the public sector for 38 plus years. We started off in the terminal emulation days of automation and have brought it through to what is known as robotic process automation to date. We mentioned that open architecture. We mentioned the cognitive services and intelligent automation at the beginning of the presentation. NDL's approach to cognitive services and things like that is to have an open architecture. So what we mean by that is we're not going to restrict you from using a particular cognitive service, because it's going to be very much like, I suppose, mobile devices. You know, over the years they're going to change, they're going to grow, and people are going to build their own cognitive services, or potentially, you know, the big four, you know, your Microsoft, your Amazon, your IBMs, they're going to develop cognitive services, and there's going to be new technologies coming down the road. So we have an open architecture which allows you to hook in to any of those cognitive services and really allowing you to use the right tool for the right job. And finally, we've got quite a large user community. So we've got over 80 public sector organisations that we work with, all collaborating, doing different kind of automation projects, and they'll collaborate at lots of different levels as well, from your kind of strategy levels right through to your developer levels, right through to your, you know, we've got lots of people who collaborate on immunisations or revenue and benefits and things like that. So particular areas of the business. So that's it from me and NDL. Be really keen to know and understand your ideas. Just one more point as well. We also work with Ceredigion Council, who are embarking on their first project at the moment. They're just starting developing, which is quite an exciting one around social care. And the new WICA system. So if anybody's interested in that, I'd be happy to open up a discussion on that around what those guys are doing as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Charlotte. If you want to stop